and you would like a copy of the workbook that goes with this training, just comment team below and we will get a copy out to you. One of the team will be in touch. If you are watching the replay and you're inside the group, you can just comment team below. If you are watching this anywhere else, potentially on the page as a replay, there's a wee link down below where you can download the workbook. What does that look like, Sarah, you say? Let me show you. This is the Rockstar checklist. Some places for you guys to take some notes. We're going to do a little bit of work later on, and the checklist itself. So if you'd like a copy of that, comment team below, and we will get that out to you. So definitely something I hear a lot as a refrain, both as a business owner before I got into coaching and since I've been coaching, is that hard people are really hard to come by. Good people are hard to come by. The right people are hard to come by. And I have never heard it more often than I hear it right now, particularly with the media ramping up the labour shortage thing. So I feel like this is really good timing. If you have a team or are thinking about building a team, there are some fundamental things that I see us doing wrong in the marketplace as business owners, as business leaders, and so let's unpack that and have a look at it. So there's kind of 3 things that I see people doing that I want to change it up. So the first thing we do is we look for common sense. What do I mean by that? Have you heard that these days young people don't have any common sense? Well, the challenge being is that common sense was a thing that was around where we lived in small communities, villages, right? 100, 150 people living in one small area, having the same lived experiences. We were, eating the same food, getting the same education, growing up in the same church, all of those things where we had a collective lived experience. And so because we all lived the same experiences, there were some things that were common sense for us. Don't leave the door open, make sure you put the chickens back in the coop. Like, there was some common sense things. We lived in a farming community. We knew that if you went through a gate and it was closed, you left it closed. If you went through a gate and it was open, you left it open. They were common sense things because collectively we had lived experience. Awesome back then, but in 2022 we don't have that. In 2022, 41-year-old Sarah has had a very different lived experience living in New Zealand, traveling overseas, than someone potentially who is maybe even the same age as me, but has never left New Zealand, or really different from someone who's grown up in America or Australia, where they've had a different experience. Different coasts on America probably have had different experiences. So the common sense just doesn't exist anymore because we don't have that collective experience. So let's stop looking for it and let's stop expecting it of people, because when people don't meet your expectations, you feel let down. So let's just scrap out that expectation, because it's removing all your joy from working with amazing people just because they don't have the same lived experiences as you. And wouldn't life be boring if we were all the same? The other thing, and the reason I talk about this stuff is not to judge on everybody else, but because I did these things too. And when you think, oh, it's a Sarah problem or it's a me problem, and then you realize that it's something that collectively as small business owners we have. Yeah, me too. Been there, done it, learned from it, and that's why I can talk about this stuff, right? I've had small teams, big teams, and you name a mistake, I've probably made it when it comes to building out those teams. So one of the things I used to do was to expect the team to do it like me. And you might be expecting your team to do it like you. At one point, I got so bad where I was like, you know what? This is how I'm going to get them to think like me. I'm going to get them to ask themselves, what would Sarah do? What would Sarah's answer be if she was in this position? In the hope that it would help them to think like me. And then they would come up with an answer and they would go and execute on it. And I'd be like, no, that's not what I would do. They're not going to do it like me. They're not me. Again, like the same with the common sense thing. They don't have the lived experience. They can't do things the same way as me. And it doesn't allow them to bring all of the awesomeness that is them to the table if they're trying to be a clone of you. So that's not going to happen in your business. So stop expecting them to do it like you. Again, it's another one of those expectations that isn't going to get met, and you're constantly going to feel let down by your team. And it really isn't them doing a poor job. It's just you having an expectation they're never going to be able to fulfill. This last one's a really common one, is expecting people to read your mind. I haven't figured out to do it yet. If you've figured out how to do it, let me know, because I feel like there's some places it'll be really useful. But if you're waiting around for your team to read your mind, it's getting really stressful for you and them. It's going to be really frustrating for them to try and figure out what it is you want. And so it makes you really hard to work for, because they're trying to guess what you want. They know that they're not going to get it right all the time. And then when they get it wrong, they're probably getting in some form of trouble or reprimanded, or you're getting frustrated or annoyed with them. And so you're kind of going, they're going, I know that there's some boundaries here somewhere, and I'm going to step over them at some point, but I don't know where they are. So I'm just going to keep going, and when I step over them, I'm going to get in trouble. And so it makes you really hard to work for. And if you're struggling to keep people, that might be something that you need to look at. Like, where's the line? Where am I stepping outside the line? Where am I not doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Because the expectations haven't been communicated to me clearly. And if we haven't communicated them, then people are having to read your mind. And so we want to take away that need for our team to go, what is Sarah thinking inside her head? And give them a way to use that information in a slightly easier way for them to interpret than try to read your mind. So we're going to do some things instead. So there's 3 things I'm going to get you to do instead. The first one is we're going to build our business common sense. I know I said before common sense doesn't exist anymore, but it doesn't mean that you can't build common sense here for you in your organization, inside your business, inside your team. You're going to say, hey, here's how we do things around here, our way. Here are the things you need to know. Here is the common sense things you need to know about working in this place, the way that we do things. And you can build out that business common sense, and that's going to be a game changer for you. So rather than expecting people to come in with it, you're going to make sure you know what it is. It's going to be in a format that everybody can consume, whether regardless of how they like to consume things. Are they readers or listeners or watchers, or try things out? You're going to make sure there's a way that they can consume what is common sense around here, so they know exactly the knowledge they need to know. It makes life so much easier. Instead of getting people to think like us, we're going to give them some really clear decision filters that allow them to make good decisions that are moving the business in the direction that you want. And so we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to talk about, where are we ultimately trying to go? Where is X marks the spot? What's the destination that we are all driving this business towards? Because when people know ultimately where you're trying to get to, then they can make decisions about, are we moving closer to that or further away from it? If we're moving closer to that destination, then yes, I should do this thing. If that thing's going to take me off on a tangent or in the wrong direction, I'm going to say no. So we're going to figure out where we're going. What's the ultimate destination for this business? The other thing we're also going to look at is we're going to look at how we're going to behave on our trek to this final destination, to this X marks the spot. How are we going to treat each other? How are we going to treat our clients, our customers, our suppliers? What are the cultural expectations, the behavioral expectations of us? And then people can use those as filters. This is how we do things around here. And we are going to make sure that those behaviors are being met all the time. And so that's another layer of filters that they can put over their decisions. And then lastly, you're going to build out some systems and processes that are your last layer of decision filters, which say, hey, this is what we do, the steps that we do here, and does this align with the system that we've been built out to make work for our business? So 3 sets of decision filters. Where are we going? How are we behaving on our way here? And what exactly are we doing? And that will make it really easy for people to make decisions that are in alignment with what you want for your business without having to learn to think like you, which is much easier. And then lastly, we need to download your mind. You're an amazing business owner and you have a lot going on up here. It's it's really exhausting when you're keeping your business all up in your head. It's really easy to get to a place where you know exactly how you want your business to run. You've got exactly the vision, exactly the picture of how it is, but your team don't know. And so you get up with this gap between what you want and what's being executed on the ground. So what you want to do is download your mind into a format that everyone can use. So we want a set of systems and processes that live in real life so everyone can see them and understand them, but also that you can hold people accountable to. So even if you're not there, you know exactly what's going on. So even if, in our example, even if Johnny's not on the boat, he knows what parts of it have been maintained, what spares are on board, how much fuel's been put into the boat. If he needs to check on that stuff, he can easily go and check it regardless of where we are. So how do you download your mind into a format like that that allows your team to know exactly what to do and us to know when they've done it as the leader of the business? So we want to download your mind. And what happens when we build out those three things is we really start to build together a team. And we start to build a team of people that don't just work together, but people that really trust each other. And love that quote from Simon Sinek. And I think it's really important because once we figure out where we're going, how we're going to get there and how we're going to behave, what we're going to do on the way there, it makes it really easy for everyone because everyone knows where the lines are. Where do they have to colour inside to know that they're inside the boundaries? What can they expect from other people? What are the boundaries that they're allowed to have with each other? And that becomes really, really clear. And so instead of all this missed expectations and these gaps between what people want and what they're getting, we don't have all that opportunity for friction. We've taken all that out because we're being really clear about these three parameters, these three decision filters that we're going to do, and we're all going to act in alignment with those because we're working together as a collective team. And when you have that, it makes it much, much easier for people to trust you because they go, oh, cool, here's the rules. I know how to play by the rules. You've told me, you've reinforced those, you've clearly communicated them, they're backed up all around the place in the way that we set up our environment, they're backed up in the way that we build our systems, they're backed up in the way we talk around here. And so I know exactly what's expected of me and I know what to expect from you. And so that starts to build trust because everyone knows what to expect. Makes life so much easier. So in order to do that, there's a whole lot of things that you need to think about. But fundamentally, let's look at how do we create rock stars in our team, or how do we find rock stars and keep rock stars? So I'm going to jump on to what page you're on. So on your workbook, you're on page 3. So let's jump over there, and you've got this little grid on the page, right? So when we're looking for people, we're looking for them to be doing two things. We've been looking for them to do along this side. Let's make sure I can write. Yes, I can. This is how we do things around here. How do we behave? This is kind of our cultural stuff. Apologies for the poor handwriting. My parents always roll over when they see this. All that money spent on a good education, I still have terrible handwriting. I'm blaming the iPad. How we do things around here. This is the values that you hold or the culture that you create. Right? How we do things around here. And then the other way that we look at people, so we have the behavioural expectations as it is along here. And then we have what we do. This is the systems, the processes that give us and our customers the outcome, So this is how we behave, are we empathetic? Are we kind? Are we having fun? Are we surprising and delighting people? Are we walking the talk? And then up this side up here, we're thinking about how exactly do we do this? What do we do? The accounting, like how do we process the accounts? If we're lawyers, like how do we onboard people and give them a great experience? If we are working in, say, a medical a medical practice of some description, how are we making sure that we're keeping people's information private? How are we making sure they're getting their prescriptions in a timely manner? So those are what we do. And so we are looking for people that do both. Yeah, you've all worked with them, the people that are amazing at both. These are your rock stars. These are the people that are awesome to work with, and they follow the systems and processes, and they get a really great outcome, right? But we've all worked with the ones that aren't so much good at all of these things. We've all worked with the people who are like, oh my goodness, that person is such a great salesperson, accountant, doctor, insert thing here. They're very good at what we do around here. They're very good. Let's call them circles. These guys are very good at the thing we do. They bring in a lot of sales, or they are great at driving a boat, maybe in our case. These guys are great at what they do, but they're not very good at working in alignment with our values. So you've met these people. They're the people that go, oh, they're awesome. They do so many sales, but they're kind of an asshole to work with, right? That's someone who's very good at doing the do and not very aligned from a values culture point of view. You also have the people that are super lovely to work with. Oh my goodness. So nice to work with. Always a pleasure to have around. They don't get very much work done. Lovely to have around. Probably not helping your business an awful lot in terms of the outputs that you're trying to get, but nice to have around. And then, of course, you have the people, I don't even know, these are kind of my blob people down here. These guys don't do the systems and processes well, and they don't align with your values and cultures very well either. And so what happens when we hire? Often we get really hung up on, we get really hung up on making sure that people are really great at the skills, the techniques that we need them to do. I want someone who's a really great chef. I want someone who's a great skipper, who's a great accountant, who's a great salesperson. And we go looking for those technical pieces, where I would argue that fundamentally someone that is here, that is great in alignment with the values for your organization, which fundamentally will probably come from you as a leader to begin with, is a much better way of hiring and much easier to train someone who's lovely to have around to turn them into a rock star where they are doing the things you want them to do. Teaching skills and techniques is much, much easier, and systems and processes is much easier than trying to teach someone the values and the culture alignment of your organization. So I would rather hire for this side of our world than this side of the world, because it's very hard to get a circle to turn into a star. Much easier to turn a triangle into a star. Obviously, our blobs, we're helping them to leave with love and grace. And ultimately, I'm going to let you know that I don't care how many dollars, how much sales this person here is bringing in, how great they are, how much information is in their head, they are demoralizing other people on your team. And these people also will need to either move on with love or grace, or they will need to learn to live and breathe and behave in alignment with your culture. Sometimes it's a matter that they haven't been told what the culture is, but generally you're going to find that they don't care because they're great at what they do, and so they've been able to get away with that sort of behavior for a long time. These guys down here, generally it's a case of there aren't systems and processes in place, they haven't been told, or they haven't been trained and developed enough to bring them up to being rock stars. So those are going to be the two major problems that you have with your team, that they don't meet your behavioral expectations and they don't meet your output expectations. And so fundamentally you want to look at this and think about, what are the problems I'm going to need to solve? So you're going to need to solve, do they know what your expectations are? That's that reading your mind piece, or the common sense piece. Those two things there. If your people don't know what the expectations are and they're having to guess because you think it's common sense, or they're having to guess because you think they should be able to think like you, that's going to cause you some people problems. And if you do have, and you have been clear about what your expectations are, then chances are you haven't held them accountable to those expectations. And that's not like accountable, like carrot and stick kind of stuff, but it is knowing and being able to have conversations where you're clear about what your expectations are, why you have those expectations, and checking in and asking the individuals in your group, what are they going to do to meet those expectations going forward? And then lastly, there's no reward for meeting the expectations, because here's the thing. If you have a couple of rock stars on your team and you also have circles and triangles, the rock stars are going to start to wonder why they should align with the cultures and do a great job if there are people there that don't have to do both, that either don't have to align with the culture piece or don't have to do a great job of what you do. And so think about that, because rock stars will very quickly leave if they are in a place where they're not rewarded for meeting those expectations consistently. So if you're really clear about your expectations, you hold people accountable to them, people will either become rock stars or they will leave of their own accord because they won't enjoy the process of being held accountable to something that they're not enjoying. Cool? So that is fundamentally how we're going to build our team out. And so how do we do that? Well, we've got a wee checklist on here that it's on the workbook. Again, if you don't have a copy of this and you're watching this live in the group, just comment team below and we'll make sure you get a copy. There's a lot of tasks that you need to do here to make sure that people are able to be rock stars in your business. And so it's all there. My recommendation to you is that you go through this. Let's just jump to that page. Inside the program, we have a whole lot of resources for that. But for now, you guys have this checklist here, right? So what I recommend you do is that you head on through this checklist. And you have a look at each of them and you go, do I have it? Do I not have it? Or do I have it, but we're not using it? And go through it. The simplest way to do this is to use a little traffic light. So red if you don't have it at all, orange if you have it but you're not using it, and green if you have it and you're using it on a daily basis inside your organization. Go through and fill out that checklist. If you've gone through and filled out this checklist and you'd like some help building out a plan to where you need to go next in terms of this, reach out and email me through your checklist. I'll have a look over it and then we can jump on a quick call and put a plan together based on how you're tracking on this checklist. What's green, what's red, what's yellow. So again, if you are watching this and you'd like a copy of the workbook, either comment team below and we'll get a copy out to you. If you're watching the replay inside the group, comment team and we'll get it to you. If you're watching this anywhere else, probably on the wee training page, there's a little button below that says, hey, download this here. So that is our training on the Rockstar team checklist and how you can start to build out that team, thinking about both parts of the matrix that you need to collectively have to make a great team. If you have any questions, of course, hit us up. But otherwise, we will see you on the next training real soon.